And welcome to Community Kitchen. Beautiful weather out there. It really is one of those times of year that you can just enjoy it. It's not too hot to work outside. You can get a few things growing, and which is what we're all about here in Community Kitchen. We love to see people getting their hands dirty, cooking a little bit. We've got a couple of interesting guests on today. I had an experience. I was driving home on Saturday morning and I was listening to a radio station. It wasn't 101.5, can't get it where I live. But listen to this woman, Kerry Leach, and she was talking about getting the best nutrition from your food. I've tracked her down, and we're going to be talking to her this morning, and I don't say eating with her this morning, but we're going to be talking with her this morning, and she has a business or part of a business in Brisbane called Eat Smart Nutrition Consultants. Interesting stuff. A little bit later we'll be talking to Katie Clift, and of course Katie's with the Cancer Council of Queensland. We always talk to them about their hosting a morning tea, which is coming up in May. It's a great thing to do because you can get your business going, you can grab some friends together. So she's going to be giving us a few hints about that. So I think what we might do is we'll go to a song and we'll come back with our first guest, which is Kerry Leach. And welcome back. We have our next guest online, Kerry Leach, who is a dietitian, works with practicing dietitian, and also in the sports area with Eat Smart Nutrition Consultants. Good morning, Kerry. How are you?
Hi, Annette. I'm great. Thank you.
Excellent. I was just mentioning earlier on the show that I was listening to the radio on Saturday and I heard a great interview and really had to share you with our listeners here because what you were talking about is getting most of your, getting the most out of what you eat, which I think is quite an interesting thought because a lot of us think we're doing the best things, but food combinations and how you cook can make quite a difference.
Yeah, it can. I think the more that we learn about food and, you know, the way that we know that you can actually develop nutrients through cooking, that you're not going to lose all the nutrients through cooking, and just the way that you can use real foods to get your nutrition, I think, is extremely important.
I love that, real foods, because, you know, whilst we're all sort of probably having a little bit of a glimpse on the telly of the cooking shows and reading things, when it comes back to every day, we really just have to put good food on the table for our family.
Yeah, we do, and we need to do that within the budgets that we have as well. And I think we need to not also forget about some of the great traditions that many of our different cultures that we have here in Australia have also. And it's when we look back at food and we look at the way that those things are cooked, that we actually see that some of them, you know, are the best ways to do things. So we've got to learn from our past as well as looking into the research.
I was thinking about that this morning, actually, and I was thinking about the time because as a child I grew up in the bush, and of course we didn't have access to food, and I can remember that we used to get a lot of our fruit and vegetables sent by train, and but it was all seasonal, which was an interesting thing. And nowadays you sort of see oranges that aren't really in the picking time but available in your supermarket. But back then everyone seemed to live in that seasonal zone.
Yeah, we lived in that seasonal time, and food was probably not transported over really long distances. We probably had market gardens that surrounded a lot of our cities, so food, you know, just came in from a short distance away. We, you know, grew our own food a lot of times as well, so that often formed the basis for a lot of our day-to-day dishes. Well, you know, what we could grow ourselves, and then, you know, when things were brought in by train, hopefully they were picked quite fresh, and then they were brought into you, and then they were, you know, you're able to use them in that season at that time. And we do know that food that hasn't been stored for long periods of time has been allowed to develop its own nutrients, you know, on the plant, and it's probably kept higher level of nutrients as well.
One of the things that we've been hearing a lot of, the good and bad fats, it's very confusing for people because if you go into one section in the supermarket aisle where you've got hundreds of different oils and you've got, you know, cold press, you've got this, you've got that. And for the average person with a couple of children at the, you know, at their knees and they're wanting to buy things, it's very difficult for people to make a choice.
Look, it can be really quite confusing, and I think the information that we really have to hand, we have to be able to sort through a lot of the research and pick out what's real and what's going to be beneficial. What we do know is that things like olive oil, which has got plenty of antioxidants in them, are great for cooking at, you know, low cooking temperatures, you know, just, you know, browning things off, not there for your stir frying and those type of things. And they contain plenty of monounsaturated fats, which have less effect on our cholesterol levels and have been shown to have no evidence of not being bad. But they're not great cooked at high temperatures. If you cook them at high temperatures, they burn. And whether it's cold pressed or it's an extra virgin, basically with the olive oil, the pressing of it is what you will get. So the first press of it will give you your extra virgin olive oil, and that will be what first comes out of the stones. Then as you get lower in your qualities to the virgins and the light type of olive oils, they've done more extraction type of processes on them and may have used more chemicals in them as well.
That's the frightening thing, isn't it? Just knowing how much chemical is going into our diet. Now, with your particular job, I mean, you're working with a lot of sports people, and a lot of these have to have the lean, mean diets, otherwise they're just not going to be able to get that fantastic performance. I think that's quite an interesting thing, how you can change your foods around to actually give you a better report at the end of the day.
Yeah, we always try and make sure with our athletes that they're basically following the healthy guidelines that I would get any normal person to do as well. But what we do with that is manipulate their food intake so that it supports their training sessions. So when we talk about needing to make sure that they have plenty of protein in their diet, plenty of protein doesn't mean excessive amounts. You know, our normal Australian diet for most people, when they're including meats in their diets, will provide the amount of protein that an athlete will require. But what we do need to make sure is that it's regularly spread throughout the day, and that also they have some immediately after their training sessions, when we know, especially if they've done a weight session, when they're going to be able to build their muscle tissue. And we know that real foods, so things like milk, things like meat products, will contain all the amino acids that the athletes actually need to build that protein. They don't need special protein powders as long as we get the right foods in at the right times.
That's interesting, isn't it? Same as children, when you think about that and you're looking at children who have to go to school and they have a high concentration level, whether it's in grade 1 or whatever, the stress is relevant, I think, to every day. And for those children to be able to perform all day, that's a tricky one for a lot of parents, isn't it?
Yeah, for a lot of kids, you know, they wake up in the morning and some of them don't have a fantastic appetite as soon as they wake up. And the most important thing for young children like that is to provide fuel for their brain as well as their muscles that are going to be active. And that fuel source, the primary one for that is carbohydrate. Now, we hear lots of bad things about carbohydrates, and there are different forms of food that, you know, that come in carbohydrates. We have things which have got a lot of other nutrients, and that's what we look for, is things that are nutrient dense, so whole grain breads, things like fruit, dairy products are all excellent sources of carbohydrate that are going to provide lots of other nutrients as well. And for a child, we need them to basically have them regularly topped up through the day. So a low carbohydrate diet, which you see a lot of in the media, is not going to be suitable for those type of kids. But on the same hand, we don't want them filling up on lots of carbohydrates, like lots of sugary type of things that don't have a lot of other nutrients. So, you know, we don't promote a lot of things like soft drinks or, you know, empty cakes and biscuits. Those things are occasional treats. They're not everyday food for kids.
Your passion, no doubt, has been with your sports. I mean, you're a sports person yourself. But I noticed after I've done a little bit of Googling, which I love to do, that food and cooking is really your passion.
Yeah, like I love being able to experiment. You know, I think my favourite things to read are probably cookbooks. I can watch the cooking shows with everyone else, and I've really loved watching. A bit of the trend in some of those cooking shows now is that, you know, there are people that are paying more attention to the quality of the food, and there's people paying more attention as well to the health of it. So, you know, we see people, people like Jamie Oliver, who have now developed programs that are there for the average families and how to cook and incorporate good foods into diets in a healthy manner. And, you know, his latest cookbook has advice in there from dietitians, which I'm great. You know, I think it's really wonderful to see.
I think it is too. I think the only thing, I mean, I like you, I'm a little bit addicted to cookbooks, and I love to sort of watch things, but I think what it does, it makes you realise that you don't have to have the fancy, I always think, you know, flambeing saffron threads or something. It's just too much for the family to be able to take in. So I agree with you, it's so nice to be able to have someone who has a practical everyday type of nutrition for our family.
Yeah, and it's ways that you can use things like canned products, whether it be canned tomatoes or canned corn and those types of things, which you then realise have got some of those great antioxidants, and they've been further developed by the cooking process that they've gone through. And they can be used as a basis for things like casserole dishes. They can be added into stir fries. They can be added in to add flavour. So there's great ways that we can use convenient foods to make things really quick for us as well.
I think that's where I actually tuned into your show when I was coming home from shopping in Kilcoy, and you were talking about the fact, don't be frightened of frozen foods, and the as you were saying with the tomatoes, that once they're actually cooked, they actually have a higher level of nutrition because of the process they've gone through and the release. So that's a very interesting thing for people to take on board too, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, and I think that if you can look at how you can incorporate those things in. I know there's a lot of people concerned about the safety of their food nowadays, and where does it come from, and what chemicals has it been grown with, and those type of things. And I unfortunately, I think we do need to do research about those things. There are probably some foods that comes from overseas countries that we may not quite be sure exactly, how it's grown and where it's done. But, that's up to us to put pressure on those type of things. But, there are many frozen foods that are basically picked and snap frozen right at the time of cooking. So they maintain a lot of their nutrients in there. And that also helps keep the price nice and even for us as well. So they're not going to be out of season as much, and they're things that can be easily then incorporated into dishes for us.
I think that's the one thing. And when it comes down to it, most of the time the parent who is in charge of providing the family food, number one, they have to look at price, as you said earlier. But at the same time, you've not only got the family meal, you've got lunch, you've got breakfast to consider, and sometimes it can be a little bit daunting if you don't really enjoy cooking.
Yeah, it can be, and I think getting help and getting inspiration in terms of planning meals and those type of things. I mean, we often tend to find that most of us will have much the same breakfast every day. We're habit people, and a lot of times we'll have lots of different things for lunch. The most important thing, if we look at what do we need to do in the Australian diet, we really need to get more fruits and veggies into our diets, and especially more veggies. So any way that we can incorporate those into breakfasts, lunches, dinners, snacks is a great thing. So, if we can concentrate on those, and that's why I love seeing things like kitchen gardens and people being growing some of their own things, because that's great ways that, we can start to put those different foods into our diet in a really reasonably priced way as well.
One of the comments that I hear the most, which really sometimes it does make me a little bit cross, because people say I never have time for breakfast. And yet if you've got a couple of bananas on the bench, grab and go, because they're such a good thing. But it is one of those things to start your day with something to eat.
That we really do know that, starting the day with breakfast, people that eat breakfast typically tend to maintain their weight better. And it seems a bit odd that you think, you're adding extra food in, but people that have breakfast tend to make sure they eat more regularly through the day. They don't get the real hungries and then have a binge at some other time as well. And they're most likely to be thinking about what they're doing as well. So, we know that that's a really great way. It's great for kids, and it's also important for adults and athletes as well. So, it can be something as simple as a smoothie that you can quickly whip up for yourself, and you can pour it into a takeaway cup and have it in the car if you want to on the way. You can, have a tub of yogurt. You can grab a piece of fruit. They too can be things, a lot of your listeners are probably commuters at times. Some of the time they're spent in the car. So if we can have something that's a snack to eat on the run, that can be fine as well.
I think it's fantastic. I really enjoyed having you on my show this morning, and listening to you on Saturday. It made my driving very pleasant. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us.
No problem at all. Thank you for letting me talk about food and my passion. So great.
Thanks. And no doubt we'll talk again another day. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
And we've been talking with Kerry Leach, and as you can see, she does have a little bit of passion in there. She does a great job there. She's an accredited practicing dietitian, a sports dietitian. dietitian, but I think what really hit the spot for me when finally it was said on her site there, finally my passion is food and cooking, and I love to find ways to make food a healthy and tasty part of everyday living. That's our whole aim, isn't it? We'll be back shortly. We'll go to our sponsors. And you're back with Community Kitchen. Interesting what Kerry was saying about the breakfast, and I'd pulled something out of the paper this week, and it actually agrees very much. Eating protein for brekkie to avoid the naughty snacking at night. And eating a breakfast high in protein can stop you prowling the pantry for fatty, sugary foods in the evening. US research found that when overweight or obese young women ate protein-rich breakfast, they not only felt fuller for longer, their brain messages responsible for food cravings were reduced. Exactly what Kerry was talking about. This impact also seemed to be felt all day. The women on the high-protein breakfast were not driven to snack on unhealthy foods in the evening, compared with the women in the study who skipped breakfast and those who ate less protein. So what's the ideal protein-rich brekkie? The women in the study ate egg and beef-based foods, such as burritos, egg waffles and sausages, and the researchers also recommended plain Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. They say the ideal amount of protein to have at breakfast is about 35 grams. This is what I'm talking about with this confusion, 35 grams of protein. How do we work this out? I mean, is that one egg? Is it whatever? That's the sort of stuff. If it was all simplified, I'm sure a lot of us would be able to consume things a little bit easier. And I don't know, it just annoys me when you're reading the back of an ingredient box or something and it has this particular language. Unless you're a dietitian or a nutritionist or something, you don't understand. This is what we've been talking about on the show here, keeping it simple. And one word that kept coming up when Kerry was talking earlier was real food. And I think that is very important for us all. If we're going to be able to produce good, healthy, natural, real food, we just have to know what it is. We don't need these complicated things all over the place. Kale. I found this other little article, 7 reasons to add kale to your diet. I've grown some. It's the first time I've grown it. We used it at Farm Fantastic last year when Len from Nature's Organics down at Narangba brought it along. We made pesto and it was so beautiful. And I've had some in my garden and they so beautiful and so nice and crispy and fresh. And apparently, if we want to go by movie stars, apparently they're all swearing by it, drinking it, juicing it, whatever. But on a more practical level, kale is a low-calorie, high-fibre and fat-free. It's very high in iron. It's actually higher in iron than beef. So maybe if you're having a dish where you've only got a small amount of beef, you can put the kale in there and jazz it up a bit. High in vitamin K, which is necessary for bone health and prevention of blood clots. It's filled with antioxidants which protect against cancer, an anti-inflammatory so it can help fight conditions such as arthritis, good for your heart and can help lower cholesterol, high in vitamin A which is great for vision and skin. Sounds like it's one of those little wonder foods, eh? That's what they're saying it is. And I know we go through these stages of talking about wonder foods, but give it a go. I don't think it's going to hurt you, and you'll see a lot of market gardens have got it, and I'm sure you'll find it around the place. Another little interesting thing I found, we've had the honey hunters from Kilcoy region on our show here a few times, and we know the importance of having our bees. And of course we've had lots of worries because you start to get a disease in the hives and then we're left without bees, and there's been a big concern over time that if we're going to lose our bee population, then we really are up a little bit of a creek without a paddle. Well, now in the city, the urban beekeeping is an international movement working to reconnect people with local food and help save the hard-working honeybee. And Brisbane's Bee 1/3 Neighbourhood Honey is the latest venture to bring nature back to city skylines. So, yes, that's right. They're putting the beehives on top of the buildings. I'm going to follow that up because I think that's fantastic. And it's nice to see that a young couple doing something interesting in the city, and there's always some great little things for us to follow along here on 101.5. I think we'll go to our song, and we'll be coming back and talking to Katie Cliff, and she's from the Cancer Council Queensland. Of course, the biggest morning tea's coming up, and someone I really admire is one of the faces for it, and that's Pose. So I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of that. Back shortly. And we're back with Community Kitchen. Good morning, Katie Cliff. How are you this morning?
I'm very well. How are you?
I can't believe it's another year that the
Goodness.
time goes so quickly.
Indeed, it does. And yes, I can't believe we are here already. Australia's biggest morning tea coming up in May.
That's right. Now, when does it actually start?
So the actual day for ABMT is May the 23rd, but we encourage people that they can hold their morning tea anytime throughout May and even into June as well, whatever time suits them, to help us raise funds and awareness.
I thought it was a good idea to have you on early because there's a lot of office groups around our region here, and take a little planning and get something happening and make it a little bit fun. I'm sure there's lots of suggestions on your site. You've got some fantastic ambassadors. So how do they start all this? How does it all happen? How do you get involved?
Yeah, so the main point to go to is biggestmorningtea.com.au. That's our website. And as you said, there's so much information there. There's merchandise that people can order, so mugs and aprons. And when people register and put in their details for hosting a morning tea, we send them out a complete host kit. So everything they need to know about hosting it, raising funds, how to send the funds back to us, where the funds actually go. All that info is there. And you can get a couple of good recipes on the website as well. This is my favourite part, I've got to be honest with you, because it's great. You get some really healthy and wonderful morning tea recipes from our national ambassadors, so people like Dominique Rizzo, Poe, Alana Lowe's, who is in the 3rd series of MasterChef. Excellent recipes up there, so it really is easy for people to whip things together, and as you mentioned, to get organised early for hosting their morning tea this year.
How long has this morning tea, the biggest morning tea, been going for?
Goodness, 20 years.
What?
Believe it. Yeah, this year is our 20th year, so we're asking people to have a birthday theme. So if they can don party hats and have a bit of a birthday cake or birthday cupcakes, that'd be awesome as well. But yeah, 20 years, and over that time, $110 million that we've raised nationwide towards the fight against cancer. So an amazing effort.
That's incredible, isn't it? Have you found that in the last few years the morning tea popularity is increasing?
Yeah, it is, and I think it's because, a lot of people, they're affected by cancer or they know someone who has been, but this is such an accessible way for them to raise funds and do something about it while they have a good time and raise awareness with their friends. It really is easy to host a morning tea, to invite people around and, in a lot of cases, have a discussion about cancer. People share their story. People find out about others and what they've been through, and even talking about the advancements we've made in research in the last 20 years. We've come a long way, and we've seen some great improvements in different cancer diagnoses across Australia. So it's a great opportunity, for people to come together and share stories and support their community.
We can be very proud of some of our Australian scientists. I mean, we've had some wonderful things happen with cancer cures out of Australia, which is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, we really have, and we've had some great research. I mean, we're funding research and we're releasing research all the time. Just to give you an idea, just in the past 20 years, in terms of the survival rate for many common cancers, we've seen that increase by 30%. So we're seeing more people surviving cancer, and we're doing more to support them after diagnosis as well. And it really is all thanks to our community champions and everyone who gets involved to support fundraising events like Australia's biggest morning tea.
I think it's, whilst, we sometimes get a little bit over celebrities and you realise that there's a lot of local heroes that sometimes don't get the stage when they should, the ambassadors and the people are recognised. It's a wonderful way to draw other people in because it's a quick recognition. I mean, I really do enjoy watching Poe, for example. So having her little happy face on that website does draw your attention to there, and I think it's just one of those great ideas.
And And it's wonderful to get their support as well. You know, people who are excelling in their field and really who are out there in the media and making a big difference in their communities as well. So I mentioned we've got celebrity chef Dom Rizzo, we've got TV presenter and food writer Alana Lowe's. These people, you know, have a lot of followers on Twitter, and it's just wonderful for them to be involved with us and to raise their cup for the cause, you know, and encourage other people to get involved as well. Because you're right, you know, a lot of people might not hear about Australia's biggest morning tea, then they'd see one of their favourite celebrities and think, oh, yeah, you know, it's coming up and I should get involved as well.
Now, it doesn't have to be complicated for people, really, when you say you could do a bit of baking. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it's all about fundraising for the Cancer Council, and that's...
It really is.
Yeah.
And let me say, I'm not a baker at all. Okay? In fact, my husband does all the cooking. I can't bake a thing to save my life. There's no, you know, I'll go along to the morning teas and eat things, but, you know, people could buy cupcakes or literally make their colleagues a cup of tea or coffee,
yes.
Have people sit around. Yeah, it doesn't have to be something lavish. It can be something really simple and easy, and have people give a gold coin donation. I mean, that's a wonderful way to raise funds and awareness. And we've got little tins that people can pick up when they register as hosts, and ideas of how to decorate if they want to go that far as well. So heaps of ways, you know, from the simple to the more lavish and complicated, whatever, you know, floats people's boats for Australia's biggest morning tea.
That's funny. Now, for people who do want to get involved, tell us the process now. If someone's listening to us and they think, oh, this is great for our office, we want to do something, or if you're a group of friends sitting around having a coffee right now and you think, okay, I want to do something, what's their first step?
Yeah, so the first thing is to remind people that the big day is May 23, but they can host their morning tea anytime throughout May or June. The website they need to go to is biggestmorningtea.com.au, or they can phone us on 1300 65 65 85. But that website is your one-stop shop, really, because it gives you all the information about how to register. As I said, you put in your details and we send you a kit. And you can also pick up merchandise there as well. So your mugs and cake stands. We've got these fabulous cardboard pop-up cake stands that people can...
Wow.
Well, yeah, they're gorgeous. You will love them. So you can jump on and check it out.
I think you're going to have to learn how to cook, Katie Cliff, so that you can proudly use one of those.
Well, that's true. Or, you know, just steal someone else's cupcakes, claim them as my own. That's good as well.
I can't imagine how you get away with not cooking and getting your husband to do all the work.
It's really funny, but it's true. It's a wonderful way to live.
Oh, that's funny. You've got like your own personal chef.
Yes, it's true. Sadly true.
That's great. Well, I wish you all the success, and we will mention this on 101.5 over the next few weeks so that we can get a lot of people involved, because the whole aim, of course, is to get some funds going for the Queensland Cancer.
Absolutely, and thank you for your support. That's been great.
Excellent. Bye, Katie.
See ya.
Bye. And we're talking to Katie Cliff, and as you mentioned, biggest morning tea, all you got to do is hop on site. But it's a great way probably to bring a little bit of fun into the workplace too, that you can get yourself organised, get a little group of people. As Katie said, you don't have to cook. She doesn't. Her husband does all the cooking, but she tends to borrow other people's cupcakes and pretend they're hers. So there's good ways around everything, guys. So I think it's a wonderful thing to get on site, have a little look at that, get yourself organised, because it runs through May and goes into June, but officially 23rd of May, and it is their 20th year. You can pick up something and do something a little bit fun for your workplace. Have a birthday party. I'm sure that your department heads or your bosses will allow a little bit of extra morning tea time. We're going to our sponsors. Be back after that. I think that might have been a Russell Morris song, was it? It was. He always used to go on a little bit. But anyway, he's gone now. Just talking about this morning tea thing, and sitting in the studio talking, and I wonder whether or not you all heard that you're now allowed to use packet cake mixes with the CWA competition. I'm going to follow that one up, because big discussion, how do you work it out? If you've all got the same cake mix, are they all going to taste the same? So we're talking about this Cancer Council morning tea, which of course brings a whole lot of other thoughts. But I want to give you a little cake mix, which is just great, and I use this one regularly. believe it or not, it is from a Bundaberg CWA cookbook. It's one of those little tiny ones. It's easy, 115 grams of butter, about 2/3 of a cup of sugar. I have used brown, I have used white, depending on what I have. 2 eggs, 1.5 cups of flour, 1/4 of a cup of milk, grated rind of 1 orange, and juice of half an orange. Now, if you don't have orange, change it around, just increase your milk. You can just play with this a little bit. Of course, you're just beating your butter and sugar until it's nice and white and blended. Put the eggs in one at a time. Add your milk and rind alternatively with the flour. Seriously, I just do the butter and sugar, put the eggs in and put everything in and just beat it. And bake it for 45 minutes at about 180 in a loaf tin. Now that, when we're thinking of the morning tea, you could put that into little cupcakes. You can cut your flour down and put a little bit of coconut in it. Change it around a bit. You can jazz it up, put some almond on top of it, take the orange out all completely and put some beautiful vanilla in there. If you've got a good basis for a recipe for a cake, you can alter that and be brave with it. Make it once. I always do that. Make a recipe once exactly from the instructions and the whatever they tell you to do, and then the next time, if it works, then you play with it a little bit, change it around, do what you like, because sometimes I don't like, say, red cherries, for example. I never have them in a cake, so if they've got that in there, you just move it around and put some other things in. So that's a really, really easy recipe. 115 grams of butter. As I always advocate here, I don't use margarine, but that's your choice. If you want to, you can. 2/3 of a cup of sugar, about 175 grams, 2 eggs, 1.5 cups of self-raising flour, 1/4 of a cup of milk, which is 50 ml, grated rind of 1 orange, and juice of half an orange. And that gives you a really great orange cake, and you can do whatever you want with it. Get ready for the host of morning tea. You can buy some good things. Lucy's just Google those little cake stands. They're $6. They're very cute, and I'm sure that would be a good thing to boost the fundraising if you bought one of those. Thinking of baking, over the Easter, I meant to tell you we were talking about chocolate, and we were talking about what we're going to cook. I did actually cook the Cadbury mint slices, mint biscuits. Fantastic. So even though it was a bit of a drama because you had 3 items you had to do, it was worth it in the end, and I think it's always good to have a bit of a go. And don't be afraid. And really, if it doesn't work out completely, that's okay. Just try again. And over time, you will start to enjoy the pleasures of getting your hands dirty in the kitchen. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing a lady whose family have grown carrots and beetroot for Edgell for numerous years. They now have a product out called the beetroot and carrot. She was very generous and sent me a couple of bottles of this, and one of the bottles is a carrot and ginger, grated, beautiful, preserved. Another was a beetroot with balsamic and garlic, which was fantastic with steak. And it was so nice. Now, the whole reason I'm mentioning this product was so nice to see a family who, once upon a time, they grew peas and they grew, or carrots, and beetroot. All of a sudden, times are changing. They've innovatively taken this product, whilst they're still supplying, no doubt, large companies, taken this product and turned it around into a great little thing that just a half a teaspoon on something can just take a very plain meal and just put a bit of jazz to it and just give that little dynamic, which is really good. And I think that's what, if you're doing your family meals, you don't have to have a lot of fancy products. Something just a little bit, just a little difference, whether it be a good olive oil or a good a balsamic vinegar, can make all the difference, and it's great to find these products. So don't be frightened sometimes when you're at a market and you see something a little bit different. It can just change that everyday meal into something a little bit different, and let's face it, we all like to try something that's deliciously yummy. I think that's what it's all about. So this morning we've been talking to Kerry Leash, and she was with Eat Smart Nutrition. Fantastic. They've got some great ideas, and as I say to you, Google it, have a look. They spend a lot of time in sports nutrition, I know they look after Brisbane Raw and they do a few things like that, but her little private passion is cooking, and you really hear that when you talk to her. And of course we talk to Katie Clift, who doesn't particularly cook. She has a husband who does that mostly for her, but she's into the biggest morning tea. To date, 20 years they've been going, $110 million they've found. That's fantastic. They've fundraised. You can get involved, have a bit of fun, have morning tea at work. That's it for me. I'll be back next week, and I think I will follow up this packet cake thing. I think that's quite amazing. We'll talk to you next week.